Tonight, let's explore the intriguing chaos of being a teenager in ancient Rome. Imagine a world where adulthood begins at just 13 and fashion is simply fabric worn with confidence. Before you settle in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly enjoy what you see. I'd love to hear from you in the comments about where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always a delight to connect with viewers from across the globe. Now, as a Roman teenager, your day begins with an unmistakable soundscape. Rome is known for its noise, a cacophony loud enough to disturb even the deepest sleeper. Long before the sun graces the horizon, the city has already declared war on your rest. The first sound you hear? Your neighbor shouting at his mule, which, believe it or not, has a mind of its own and is quite vocal about it on the cobblestones at dawn. Even before you open your eyes, you sense that today is going to be a quintessentially Roman day, chaotic and perhaps a bit disappointing. If you come from wealth, you awaken in a villa so stunning that even the gods might envy your exquisite mosaic floors. But don't get too comfortable, because that beautiful open-air design transforms your home into a wind tunnel, where even the most expensive decor struggles to stand its ground. And a gentle tap on your shoulder pulls you from sleep, delivered with the weariness of someone who has long abandoned their own dreams. "Young master, it is time," they whisper, but what they really mean is, "Please wake up before the rooster starts its morning chorus." If you're living in poverty, your sleeping arrangements are quite flexible. You share a small room with enough siblings to form a small army. Your mattress is nothing more than straw, and you know it's morning because your brother just tumbled off his side and landed squarely on your face. Outside, the rooster crows loudly, and nearby, you can hear the neighbor already arguing about the price of bread. You can't help but contemplate the invention of a modern door, just to block out the chaos. The aroma of Rome envelops you next, a blend of olive oil, fresh bread, incense, smoke, sweat, and whatever mysterious liquid your upstairs neighbor carelessly discarded out the window last night. Privacy? That's a concept you've never encountered. And peace? It left town years ago. As your feet touch the floor, you're greeted by the coolness of the terracotta tiles favored by the upper class, or perhaps the packed dirt that everyone else endures. Either way, it's chilly enough to prompt a moment of reflection about your life choices. You navigate through a labyrinth of household items, jugs, baskets, sandals, your father's tools, and at least one cat that simply refuses to budge, convinced of its own divine status. As the day begins, the city comes alive, cranking up the volume to a new level. Vendors shout about fresh fruit, though you can tell it's far from fresh. Bakers boast about their bread as if it were a political triumph. Street children dash around, full of energy, embodying the spirit of the city. This is your morning in Rome, a city that doesn't gently awaken you. It seizes you by the tunic and insists, "Rise, shine, survive." Breakfast in ancient Rome is quite frankly underwhelming. To call it a meal is generous. It's more of a suggestion, a mere whisper of food, a small offering to keep your stomach from complaining to the gods. As you shuffle into the main room of your home, still half asleep, you feel a twinge of annoyance at the world around you. Outside, the streets are alive with noise, yet inside, your family prepares a Roman breakfast that has the nutritional excitement of a beige wall. If you belong to a wealthy family, your breakfast might consist of bread dipped in honey, dried fruit, olives, and perhaps a bit of cheese. It's essentially snack food that your rich uncle claims is light and sophisticated, but in reality, it barely qualifies as nourishment. The slaves bring out the food, wearing expressions that suggest they know you're likely to complain no matter what they serve. Imagine waking up to a simpler breakfast, one that might consist of just bread, perhaps even hard bread, the kind that if tossed at someone could cause lasting emotional scars. You might soften it with watered wine, a clever Roman trick, yet it still carries the taste of regret, mingled with faint hints of grape. And yes, Romans do drink watered wine in the morning, not to get tipsy before lunch, but because the water in Rome resembles something from a questionable pond. Teens sip on diluted wine, calling it hydration, while modern parents fret over their children's caffeine intake. As you gather around the table, which is merely a plank of wood masquerading as furniture, your father dives into discussions about politics, taxes, or that neighbor who dared to look at him the wrong way last week. Your mother, meanwhile, is mentally orchestrating the day ahead, juggling cleaning, shopping, and reminding you to behave in public, a job that feels endless. If you belong to a wealthier family, breakfast is a different affair. You eat while a servant stands by, holding your shoes, poised to assist you once you finish. In contrast, if you're from a poorer background, your mother might toss your sandals at you with the precision of a seasoned centurion. Consider how these moments shape your morning. What do they reveal about your world? You step outside, and the scent of breakfast lingers in the air, mostly bread and olives, tinged with a hint of disappointment. Suddenly, the vibrant aroma of Rome envelops you. Street food sizzles nearby, animals wander freely, and you hear shouts about fresh fish, followed by a counterclaim of deceit. A beggar argues with a pigeon, and just like that, breakfast is over. You have your fuel, and Rome is calling. In ancient Rome, there's no teenage phase to ease the transition into adulthood. At 13, you're not gently guided into maturity. Instead, you're thrust into it, much like a soldier sent off to battle before finishing breakfast. It begins with the toga ceremony. One moment, you're a carefree child, and the next, you find yourself wrapped in the toga virilis, a heavy, dramatic garment that announces to the world your new status as a respectable adult. Your mind may still be in the realm of snacks, yet your family beams with pride. Your father gives you a reassuring pat on the back, while your mother wipes away her tears. Take a moment to reflect on this journey. What does it mean to step into responsibility so suddenly? As you navigate the bustling forum, you hope to avoid a misstep that could turn you into the talk of the town for years to come. If you're a girl, the pressure intensifies. One moment, you're engrossed in playing with clay dolls, and then suddenly, your mother suggests a conversation about marriage at just 13 years old. At this age, while many modern teenagers are still deciding on the perfect profile picture, in Rome you begin to contemplate managing a household, choosing quality wool, and preparing to raise future citizens who will passionately express their political views in the streets. In this society, self-discovery is not a priority. Instead, Rome assigns your identity. If you are the son of a baker, congratulations, you are destined to follow in those footsteps. If you are the daughter of a merchant, you will learn accounting whether you wish to or not. Romans took pride in responsibility, often placing it upon you before you even grasped the concept fully. Boys were groomed for politics, rhetoric, and possibly military service, while girls were taught to manage a home, oversee finances, and direct servants, all while striving to avoid scandals, an endeavor that proved more challenging than it might seem. Everything you do is under scrutiny. Your posture, your manners, your grasp of Latin, your clothing, each detail is observed. Even the way you glance at someone in public is subject to judgment. In Rome, gossip flows like water. Everyone has an opinion, and subtlety is a rarity. Your hobbies are no exception. Are you reading? That's commendable. But if you're gambling or lingering too long at the gladiator matches, well, that all depends on who's watching. Rome doesn't allow you the luxury of growing up at your own pace. It demands maturity, loudly and in public. If you're a teenage boy in Rome, you wear the toga virilis. Calling it a uniform feels generous. In reality, it's a cumbersome, unwieldy garment that seems designed to trip you up at every turn. The first time you don it, you quickly grasp why Roman statues often appear so stressed. As soon as you step outside, the toga transforms into an awkward bedsheet, seemingly with a personal vendetta. It slips from your shoulder, tangles around your legs, and threatens to choke you in a gust of wind. And if it brushes the ground, instant dirt. Rome is a land of dust, chaos, and mysterious substances that you definitely don't want on your clothing. Yet you wear it proudly because it boldly declares to the world, I am now a man. You may still be just 13, struggling to keep your toga from looking like a wrestling match with a sea creature, but in Roman society, you are now considered a man. With this new status comes a whirlwind of responsibilities that seem to pile up faster than wine in a bustling shop. Your father wastes no time in guiding you through the essentials: rhetoric, philosophy, law, military discipline, and mastering the art of greeting others without bringing shame to the family name. And if you slip up, rest assured, someone will be quick to point it out. Your days are filled with school, which resembles a lively outdoor classroom. Here your teacher passionately recites the works of great philosophers, all while the local fishmonger shouts from behind him. You spend hours copying Greek texts, memorizing speeches, and honing your argumentation skills. Debating is a cherished tradition among Romans, and they prepare for it with the intensity of athletes. You learn to argue about everything under the sun: politics, poetry, architecture, even whether your friend's haircut is a disaster. Each topic is fair game. After school, you might join your father at the Forum, the vibrant center of Roman life. Here, you witness politics unfold in real time. Senators lie with conviction, merchants shout about their wares, and public speakers gesture so dramatically that they sometimes accidentally strike bystanders. It's a world alive with energy, and you are right in the midst of it all. Your father leans in and whispers, "One day this will be you." You find yourself thinking, "One day, I hope I learn how to walk confidently in this toga." Alongside this, there's an expectation to embody virtues like Roman courage and discipline. This means training your body, practicing with wooden swords, and mastering the art of marching like a small, unassuming legionary. Being a teenage boy in ancient Rome is far from relaxing. It feels like a marathon of expectations wrapped in fabric. At least your sandals are comfortable. If you're a teenage girl in ancient Rome, your life doesn't unfold gently. Instead, it snaps into place like a trap. One moment, you're a child playing with dolls made from leftover wool scraps. The next, your mother is saying, "Sweetheart, let's discuss household management and your future husband," while you're still trying to process yesterday's lesson about spinning flax. Your day begins early, very early, before dawn. According to Roman mothers, sunlight may be optional, but productivity certainly is not. You wake to the sounds of the street vendors shouting, dogs barking, and someone dropping a jar for the third time that week. Then, you hear your mother's voice reminding you that adulthood isn't going to prepare itself. Your day begins the moment you rise. You dive into tasks like weaving, spinning, cleaning, preparing meals, and managing the endless cycle of Roman laundry. The clothing, primarily made of wool, presents a challenge. You stir vats of hot water, scrub away stubborn stains, and wring out tunics with your hands. Sometimes you can't help but wonder how many gods need to be appeased for someone to invent a washing machine. If your family is well off, your responsibilities expand to supervising servants and learning the art of hosting elegant dinners. These gatherings come with their own pressures. Guests scrutinize everything from seating arrangements to the seasoning of the dishes and even the conversations. Your mother guides you on how to smile graciously while calculating the household budget in your mind. She also teaches you the delicate dance of avoiding family scandals, a full-time job in Rome where scandal often feels like a city sport. For those from less affluent families, the workload doubles. You help manage the family stall at the market, carrying weights that exceed your own. You haggle with merchants who think they're comedians, all while chasing your siblings to prevent any accidental disasters. Amidst all this, there's an expectation looming over you, preparation for marriage. By the age of 13 or 14, your parents start evaluating potential husbands, adding yet another layer of pressure to your young life. Picture this, a rich and respectable family where the air is thick with the scent of fermented anchovies. It's unfortunate, but it's something you learn to endure. And then there's love. What does it truly mean? Is it a grand Greek poem, or perhaps a luxury only the wealthy can afford? In Rome, young girls quickly learn to navigate a world crafted by men who believe they know what's best for everyone. Your mother reveals the real secrets of life. She teaches you how to negotiate, manage finances, and run the household quietly, all while ensuring no one notices the effort you put in. Your life is a whirlwind of demands, structure, and chaos, and you're only 13. Rome doesn't wait for you to grow up. It simply expects you to have already done so. School in ancient Rome is far from the serene academic experience you might envision today. There are no quiet classrooms or polished hallways, no inspirational posters urging you to reach for the stars. Instead, Roman education unfolds outside, amidst the vibrant chaos of a bustling marketplace. Your school day begins at the Ludus, a small space nestled near the street or market. Your teacher, the literator, awaits you, wearing the eternal expression of someone who wonders why the gods have cursed him with a career involving teenagers. As you step into this lively scene, you might feel a mix of anxiety and excitement. How will you navigate this chaotic environment? What lessons await you today? Imagine yourself surrounded by your classmates, each of you holding a wax tablet and a stylus, trying to focus amidst the lively chaos. The street outside buzzes with the sounds of children playing and merchants enthusiastically promoting their olives. A stray dog even wanders by, eyeing your wax tablet as a potential chew toy. Yet, your teacher demands your full concentration. Your lessons cover reading, writing, and basic arithmetic. It may sound straightforward, but you're also tackling Greek and Latin simultaneously. The Romans have decided that their young learners should face the challenge of mastering two languages at once. As you practice forming letters on your wax tablet, your teacher moves around the room, correcting your posture, pronunciation, and even offering life advice. Then comes the subject of rhetoric, a true favorite in Rome. Here, math and science take a back seat. The Romans believe that if you can argue passionately and persuasively while gesturing grandly, you can thrive in any situation. You begin honing your skills with small speeches, introductions, simple debates, and dramatic recitations of poetry. Your teacher insists that each line must be delivered with enough fervor to sway even the Senate. Meanwhile, you find it challenging to keep your focus, especially with the fishmonger bickering with a customer just a few feet away. If your family can manage it, you might advance to the grammaticus, the next level of teacher, where even more profound knowledge awaits you. In this setting, you delve into Greek literature, history, geometry, and even the art of crafting a clever insult with sophisticated vocabulary. You explore the nuances of grammar, distinguishing between good grammar, elegant grammar, and the kind that might provoke Cicero's ghost to intervene. Your teachers are strict, wielding a specially named stick to enforce discipline. Yet oddly, that's not the most daunting aspect. The real challenge lies in the relentless expectation that you will evolve into a polished, well-mannered Roman citizen, someone who won't bring shame to their family by stumbling over their toga during a speech. School in ancient Rome is a cacophony of noise, demands, and chaos, yet amidst it all, learning thrives. Education is not merely a choice, it is a vital preparation for a life lived in the public eye. And remember, Rome is always observing. By the time you reach your teenage years, one truth becomes unmistakably clear. You are deemed useful, not adorable, not merely growing, not still figuring things out. You are seen as a resource. Rome is committed to maximizing productivity from each individual, starting the moment you can walk without tumbling into a fountain. If you belong to a humble or struggling family, your days are filled with more chores than a modern teenager could bear emotionally. Imagine stepping into a world where chores are more than just tasks. They are an intricate dance of daily life. You find yourself not merely cleaning your room, but engaged in a whirlwind of activities. You're scrubbing floors, hauling water from a distant fountain, chopping vegetables, feeding animals, weaving cloth, and sweeping courtyards. All the while, you try to avoid the dust clouds that swirl around you as your brother shakes out rugs from the balcony, creating a mini sandstorm. And then there's laundry. Congratulations, you're part of this chaotic endeavor. Roman laundry is no ordinary task. It feels like a battlefield. Clothes are soaked in tubs, stomped on with determination, scrubbed with brushes, rinsed, wrung out, and hung to dry, all while every relative shouts their advice at once. Just when you believe you've completed the task, your mother appears, holding yet another basket, her expression one of gentle disappointment. For boys, the day may involve an apprenticeship. Perhaps you find yourself learning the trade of a blacksmith, where your hours are filled with sweat, soot, and the constant bark of a man who communicates solely through grunts and the sound of hammers striking metal. Alternatively, you might be apprenticed to a potter, tasked with lugging heavy clay and trying your best not to break anything, all while the potter watches with the patience of a weary bull. For girls, the apprenticeship unfolds within the home. You learn the arts of weaving, spinning, cooking, budgeting, and managing storage. You also master the timeless Roman skill of smiling politely, all while quietly solving everyone's problems. In this vibrant tapestry of life, every task weaves together the essence of your existence, shaping who you are and how you navigate the world around you. Your mother trains you like a general preparing a commander. One day you will manage a household, and she is determined that you won't embarrass the family by mismanaging the olive oil supplies. Meanwhile, wealthy teens also have chores, but theirs involve supervising others who do the actual work. It might seem easier, but trust me, Roman supervision is quite exhausting. You must observe, critique, and nod wisely at the right moments. You pretend to understand accounting while your father lectures you about grain prices. If you are extremely wealthy, congratulations, you now face the added burden of etiquette lessons. Yes, etiquette. You learn how to sit, stand, greet senators, pass objects politely, and avoid social missteps, like speaking out of turn or wearing the wrong sandals to a festival. Regardless of your social class, Rome expects you to contribute. Teenagers are not merely ornamental, they are part of the workforce. By the age of 13 or 14, you aren't just preparing for adult life, you are already living it. Despite the responsibilities, chores, and constant expectations, along with the looming threat of being yelled at by an adult for reasons that may remain unclear, Roman teenagers manage to have a vibrant social life. It is loud, dramatic, and full of life. Imagine stepping into the vibrant chaos of Rome, where friendships are not born in silence, but are crafted amidst a whirlwind of activity. Your closest friends are those familiar faces from childhood, neighbors, classmates, cousins, and even that boy who once mischievously tossed an amphora into a fountain, blaming it on a passing dog. Then there's the girl, whose negotiation skills could rival those of seasoned senators. Together, you form a lively crew, a small army of youthful energy navigating the bustling streets of the empire's capital. Rome is your playground, a thrilling, albeit perilous, obstacle course. You weave between market carts, sidestep stray dogs, and leap over unpredictable puddles filled with who knows what. Merchants shout their wares, often directing their playful jabs at you and your friends. The Forum, local bars and food stalls become your meeting points, where the scent of fresh bread, olives, and tantalizing snacks fills the air. Street food is your sustenance, fueling your spirited discussions about the pressing matters of teenage life. What gladiator reigns supreme? Does your rhetoric teacher harbor a secret curse? And who witnessed that unforgettable moment when a senator stumbled over his toga last week? Games are integral to your Roman experience. You engage in lively ball games within cramped courtyards, play board games with knucklebones, and partake in countless chaotic variations of tag, all governed by rules that would baffle any adult. As you reflect on these moments, consider how they shape your journey through this ancient city, where every corner holds a new adventure waiting to unfold. Imagine a world where boys engage in mock wrestling, tackling each other into the dirt as a testament to their friendship. Meanwhile, girls gather in weaving circles, sharing gossip and occasionally rolling their eyes at the adults who think they're not paying attention. The baths serve as the ultimate social hub, an essential stop for everyone, even those teens who can barely afford a meal but will save a coin or two for entry. Inside, the atmosphere is alive with the heat of the hot room, the refreshing splash of the cold plunge, and the whispers of secrets exchanged among friends. Here they boast about their tutors, complain about chores, and play act as sophisticated adults, all while being the noisy teenagers they truly are, believing the steam conceals their antics. In a city like Rome, full of rules, sneaking out becomes an unspoken rite of passage. Teens slip away to catch thrilling chariot races, enjoy the humor of street performers, or sneak a peek at gladiators warming up. Each outing turns into an adventure filled with hushed excitement and the occasional dash when things don't go as planned. Friendships in Rome are intense, loyal, and unforgettable. In a city that never pauses, where noise and judgment are constant, you hold tightly to those who truly understand your chaotic world. Being a teenager in ancient Rome is about finding your tribe amidst the hustle and bustle, creating bonds that resonate through time. Your outfit seems intent on sabotaging you. Roman fashion isn't just clothing, it's a daily struggle against gravity, fabric, and the potential for public embarrassment. And let's be honest, gravity usually comes out on top. Let's begin with the boys. You wake up, slip on your tunic, and then it's time for the pièce de résistance, the toga virilis. This garment is so dramatic and oversized that it could easily serve as an emergency circus tent. The toga has two primary purposes: to signal your transition into adulthood and to trip you up in front of someone important. No statue of a Roman ever reveals the truth. The toga slips, folds awkwardly, and seems to have a will of its own. If a breeze comes along, you find yourself in a full-body wrestling match with a sheet, all while the city looks on. Senators manage to make it look graceful because they have attendants adjusting their togas every 10 minutes. Meanwhile, you're just a teenager trying to avoid becoming a fabric burrito. Girls face their own set of fashion trials. You wear the starler and the parlor, both beautiful in theory, yet in practice, they're long, heavy, and determined to snag on every piece of furniture, door frame, or wandering goat. Your hair is styled into intricate designs that require at least 3 pins, 2 prayers, and the patience of Jupiter himself. Isn't it fascinating how fashion can feel like a battlefield? Imagine putting in all that effort, only for a sudden gust of wind to turn your carefully styled hair into something entirely different. In ancient Rome, accessories are essential. Jewelry isn't just decoration, it conveys your family's wealth or lack thereof to everyone nearby. Think earrings, bracelets, and brooches. Romans had a flair for social ambition, much like magpies drawn to shiny objects. If you're affluent, you adorn yourself with gold and glass beads. If you're less fortunate, you make do with bone, clay, or whatever your uncle managed to trade at the market. Hopefully, it's not cursed. Footwear, sandals, naturally. They are practical in the summer, bearable in spring, and regrettable in winter. The straps have a knack for breaking at the most inconvenient times, usually when you're trying to maintain your dignity or navigating a suspicious puddle that clearly didn't come from rain. Keep in mind, Rome has a judgmental eye. The entire city feels like a runway, with every citizen acting as a fashion critic. If your attire is too plain, people will raise their eyebrows. If it's too extravagant, you'll attract suspicion. A wrinkled tunic? Unforgivable. A toga dragging on the ground? You've shamed your ancestors. Roman fashion demands 2 key elements: confidence and constant adjustments. You find yourself wrapped in symbolism, entwined with social expectations, and held together by hope. Welcome to ancient Rome, where even your clothing carries political weight and personal stories. Stepping outside your home as a Roman teenager feels like entering a vibrant obstacle course crafted by the gods for their amusement. The streets of Rome are not mere pathways, they are living entities, full of noise, unpredictability, and theatricality. They seem intent on tripping you, splashing you, confusing you, or perhaps even converting you to a new belief before lunchtime. As you take your first steps, the city embraces you, shaking you awake. Vendors shout, competing to capture your attention with their boisterous calls. Fresh bread, fresh fish, fresh tales, everything in Rome is proclaimed with boldness and a piercing gaze. Then, the scents envelop you, a unique aroma that defies scientific classification. It's a potent mix of baked bread, olive oil, incense, sweat, animals, wine, sewage, wood smoke, and the remnants of whatever your neighbor carelessly discarded moments ago. Each corner presents a new fragrance, each one honest and inviting in its own way. Navigating these bustling streets becomes a sport in itself. You dodge carts pulled by donkeys who show no regard for pedestrians. You sidestep beggars, performers, stray dogs, and children darting around like little bundles of energy. In this vibrant tapestry of life, every moment is a new adventure waiting to unfold. The cobblestones beneath your feet are uneven, and the alleys narrow around you, filled with the spirited sounds of a bustling city. As you stroll, shops line the streets, each a tiny universe brimming with life. Bakers pull steaming loaves from their ovens, filling the air with a warm, inviting aroma. Blacksmiths hammer away, their rhythmic clangs reverberating through your very being. Barbers attend to customers right in the open, while tavern owners call out offers that promise delightful indulgence, even if you might regret that wine later. Street performers add to the vibrant atmosphere. Musicians strum their lutes, creating melodies that linger in the air, while poets recite verses, exuding a confidence that suggests they've never faced a boo. Acrobats attempt daring flips that might make your mother mutter a prayer or two. Some performers showcase genuine talent, while others display sheer enthusiasm. Navigating through the chariot traffic presents its own challenges. When you hear wheels approaching, you quickly step aside, for Roman drivers adhere to two simple rules: speed is life, and pedestrians must be alert. Youngsters often dash out of the way with exaggerated flair, pretending they weren't frightened at all. You also encounter soldiers on patrol, their presence a reminder of Rome's power and order. They walk with purpose, their expressions serious, as if to say that one misstep could turn you into a mere statistic. Their gaze is unwavering, a silent testament to the city's constant watchfulness. Amidst the chaos, the vibrant aromas, the lively shouts, and the ever-present thrill of adventure, the streets of Rome pulse with life. They are exhilarating, dangerous, and unforgettable. For you, as a Roman teenager, these streets form your entire world. If there's one thing that captures the hearts of Roman teens, it's the excitement of festivals. Ancient Rome boasts a plethora of them, so many that you might think the empire is just one poor harvest away from turning into a year-long celebration, punctuated by the occasional tax collection. Festivals in Rome burst with noise, chaos, joy, and a delightful lack of rules, making them irresistible to teenagers. Let's dive into the most significant one, Saturnalia. For one magnificent week in December, the city transforms. Masters serve their slaves, families exchange gifts, and gambling becomes a social norm. Teenagers revel in this freedom, behaving like overly enthusiastic goat herders, unburdened by adult supervision. You, bright Blake clothing, shout in the streets, and indulge in so many sweets that you might wonder if the gods themselves created diabetes. Then there's Lupercalia, a festival that would surely raise eyebrows among modern parents. Here, teenagers gather to witness half-naked priests racing through the city, playfully striking people with strips of goat hide in a ritual of fertility. It's wild and exhilarating, a true testament to the spirit of Roman youth. You might think you're just watching for the irony, but deep down, you know that everyone your age finds it both hilarious and a bit concerning. Fruleira, for instance, is a favorite spring festival filled with vibrant flowers, lively dancing, and theatrical performances. People act dramatically, yet they remain completely sober. Teenage girls adore it for the fashion, while teenage boys have their own reasons, which they conveniently deny when asked by their parents. Every festival brings food stalls, performers, music, and a taste of the ancient Roman carnival chaos. As you wander the streets with friends, indulging in honey cakes or roasted nuts, street magicians captivate you with tricks that may involve a bit of cheating, but they're entertaining nonetheless. You find yourself watching actors deliver comedies in masks so exaggerated they could haunt your dreams. Acrobats flip through the air, musicians play infectious tunes, and people dance with joyful abandon. In these moments, Rome transforms into a playground. But the festivals aren't the only source of excitement. The Colosseum and amphitheaters draw in teenagers like bees to honey. You and your friends sneak away to watch gladiators train, muscular warriors honing their skills with wooden swords, all while pretending you're there for educational purposes. The energy, the cheering, the drama, it's utterly addictive. Your mother often remarks that the games are too violent, yet, in that moment, you can't help but be captivated by the thrill of it all. Your father believes that these traditions hold cultural significance. You, however, claim your interest lies in the strategy behind them. Take the Circus Maximus, for instance. It's the heart of chariot racing, akin to a blend of Formula One and mixed martial arts. Teenagers rally behind their teams, painting symbols on their sandals and cheering loudly as the horses race around the track at dizzying speeds. Winning brings a sense of triumph, while losing feels deeply personal. Festivals and entertainment are not mere distractions, they embody freedom, joy, and the very essence of Roman teenage life. If you envision Roman bathhouses as tranquil retreats where people whisper and enjoy peace, you may be mistaken. The bathhouse is the vibrant center of Roman social life. Loud, crowded, humid, and chaotic, yet it remains everyone's favorite gathering spot. As a Roman teenager, the baths become your social hub. Instead of saying, "let's meet up later," you casually suggest, "meet me at the baths." After all, where else could you go? The streets can be perilous. The forum is filled with adults and heated discussions, and your home is a battleground of chores waiting to ensnare you. The baths stand as neutral ground, a sanctuary filled with steam and lively gossip. Imagine stepping into a world where the entrance fee feels like a small price to pay, even for those watching their wallets closely. You hand over a coin, cross the threshold, and are immediately enveloped by a wave of heat, as if the very air is welcoming you with open arms. Inside, you find yourself in a labyrinth of rooms: the apoditarium, changing room, tepidarium, warm room, calarium, hot room, and frigidarium, each offering a distinct experience, though serenity is often elusive. You change in the cramped space of the changing room, stashing your belongings in a cubby, hoping the attendant is trustworthy today. While theft is officially frowned upon, it happens so frequently that it's almost seen as part of the ambiance. After a quick change, you make your way into the warm room, where your body begins to adapt to the rising temperatures, joined by a crowd of fellow patrons who share your desire for warmth. But it's in the hot room where the true experience unfolds. The steam is so thick that your hands seem to vanish before your eyes. In this steamy haven, middle-aged men engage in animated discussions about politics, while older gentlemen voice their complaints about life. Nearby, teenagers exchange whispers that hold enough intrigue to shake the very foundations of authority. The heat wraps around you, a sensation so intense it feels like your very essence is sweating. Your hair springs to life, and your skin absorbs moisture whether you desire it or not. Then comes the cold plunge, a challenge reminiscent of a Roman dare. You leap in, your body jolted by the shock, while laughter from your friends echoes in the air. It's a moment of exhilaration, a test of bravery, and a memory that lingers long after you emerge. The water feels colder than the look your mother gives when you attempt sarcasm. Between your dips, you munch on snacks, chat with friends, and share complaints about school. You admire the gladiator posters etched into the walls, all while pretending not to stare at the cute people across the room. The bathhouse serves as a sanctuary where teenagers can unwind, socialize, and momentarily forget that adulthood is racing toward them like a gladiator in full stride. These baths are more than just a place for hygiene. They offer therapy, a sense of community, and serve as the ancient Roman equivalent of a mall, gym, cafe, and gossip hub, all wrapped into one vibrant, steamy space. If you think modern parents have high expectations, just imagine the pressure from ancient Roman ones. In Rome, family expectations hit you like a runaway chariot, leaving no room for escape. Yes, you're a teenager, but Rome doesn't care. It insists you are ready, mature, capable, and responsible. Despite all evidence to the contrary, your family doesn't merely hope for your success, they expect it. In this society, reputation reigns supreme. Your family's honor overshadows your comfort, feelings, and ambitions, even if your toga feels like it's trying to suffocate you. If you're a boy, your father will eventually sit you down for the talk. Imagine a time long ago, in ancient Rome. A father speaks to his son with earnest intensity. You must bring honor to our family, he insists. Train your mind, strengthen your body, learn the law, study rhetoric, and observe the forum, and please stand up straight. The neighbors can see you. He gestures dramatically toward the horizon, as if the gods themselves are taking notes on his words. Nearby, your mother listens, nodding approvingly, as if she is endorsing your future. She reminds you that your actions reflect on the entire household. Every detail matters. How you walk, speak, eat, greet others, and even how you breathe in public. It all must be executed with the precision of a skilled senator. If you are a girl, the expectations are even greater. Your mother takes charge of your training, like a general preparing a commander for battle. You learn to run a household with grace and efficiency, budgeting, supervising servants, weaving, cleaning, organizing storage, managing guests, maintaining religious rituals. Each task is vital, especially ensuring there's enough olive oil to last for years. And then there's the matter of marriage. It isn't just a distant thought, it's an ongoing project. Your parents are already strategizing alliances, dowries, and weighing which suitor has the fewest questionable rumors attached to him. You might find yourself pondering whether you prefer poetry or chariot races, but for them, the future is a carefully laid plan. Doesn't it make you wonder how these ancient expectations shape lives, even today? You find yourself sitting quietly, nodding along, while a storm brews inside. In Roman families, expectations run deep. They demand discipline, modesty, achievement, and obedience. You're expected to carry yourself with the poise of a seasoned politician, even while shaking the sand from your sandals after a day of play. In Rome, teenage rebellion is a myth. It's not that teens lack the urge to rebel. They certainly do. But that rebellion often culminates in a lengthy lecture on honor, duty, ancestors, Jupiter, and even the potential for drought caused by your actions. Rome doesn't just raise teenagers, it forges them, shaping their identities under the weight of societal expectations and the watchful eyes of the neighborhood. Amidst all the politics, clamor, and unmistakable sense of the city, one truth remains unchanged: the whirlwind of teenage crushes that could ignite an entire amphitheater. Love in Rome is a delightful chaos, unpredictable, inconvenient, thrilling, and utterly inescapable, much like the city itself. Let's dive into the heart of it. Roman teenagers fall in love at lightning speed. You might catch a glimpse across the forum of someone adjusting their toga with effortless grace, and suddenly you feel as if the gods are sending you a message. Perhaps you spot someone at the baths, their hair perfectly styled, or at least not entirely ruined by the steam. Imagine this. Your heart whispers that this is destiny. It doesn't matter that you've never exchanged a single word. The specifics can be figured out later. Your friends? Well, they offer no real guidance. They cheer you on with wild suggestions. You should strike up a conversation, write them a heartfelt poem, maybe even pretend you're lost, despite knowing the area like the back of your hand. Teenage Romans have been dishing out questionable advice long before the digital age. If you're a boy, your attempts to capture your crush's attention often lead to awkward antics. You might stand nearby, gesturing wildly in conversations that don't involve you, or trying to ignore that your toga feels like it's squeezing the life out of you. Perhaps you'll attempt to craft a poetic line inspired by Ovid, but it ends up sounding more like a grocery list sprinkled with feelings. For girls, the situation is even trickier. Approaching someone with a simple hi would be scandalous. Instead, you become a master of the sideways glance, subtle, strategic, and utterly captivating. As you pass each other in the marketplace, you feign indifference while your heart races. You share shy smiles, all while your mothers bicker over the price of vegetables. Love letters exist, but they aren't the folded notes you might expect. They're wax tablets filled with grand declarations like, "Your beauty burns brighter than Vesta's flame, hidden away from parental eyes." Isn't it fascinating how the heart navigates these complexities? Imagine this. You're about to face a lecture so lengthy it could outlast several political administrations. And then there's the ever-present risk of gossip. In Rome, gossip flourishes. You share a secret with one friend, and by sunset, the entire neighborhood has formed opinions about your so-called romance. Senators whisper, bakers exchange tales, and even the stray dogs seem to join in. Yet, love endures. In a city that values duty and honor, Roman teenagers discover ways to feel deeply. They hope, dream, flirt awkwardly, and envision futures that extend far beyond the confines of their family homes. In Rome, love is not a private affair. It becomes an art form, a dramatic performance, a means of survival, and at times, a complete disaster. As you reach your late teens in ancient Rome, the city has already determined your path. It doesn't wait for you to find yourself, pursue your passions, or figure things out. Rome believes those moments belong in Greek philosophy classrooms, not in your daily life. You are expected to step into adulthood with the confidence of someone who has it all figured out, even when you know you don't. For boys, this transition to adulthood arrives with a heavy thud. So, how do you navigate this world? Imagine being suddenly thrust into a bustling forum where your father introduces you to a host of important figures, senators, merchants, and magistrates. These are people you've never met before, yet you feel an unspoken pressure to impress them. One of them places a hand on your shoulder and says you must uphold Roman values. You nod politely, but inside you're panicking about your toga and how it might be folding awkwardly. Your future stretches out before you like a grand buffet filled with responsibilities. You face choices in law, politics, military service, or perhaps taking over the family business. Just when you think you've settled on a path, the adults around you remind you of the weightier duties that come with age. You must honor your ancestors, uphold family honor, avoid scandal, make wise financial decisions, and eventually produce heirs. It can feel overwhelming, can't it? Now, if you're a girl, the stakes are even higher. Adulthood for you isn't just a step, it's a leap into a world of responsibility. You are expected to manage a household with the precision of a military commander. This means overseeing servants, budgeting resources, organizing religious duties, preparing meals, hosting guests, and mastering the art of weaving, all while maintaining a smile through whatever crises arise. Marriage, in this context, is far from a romantic adventure. It's a strategic alliance, a carefully crafted plan. It's the ancient Roman way of saying, please don't embarrass us. The pressure is real, and the expectations are high. How do you navigate this intricate dance of duty and honor? As you navigate your new household, you do so with charm, patience, and intelligence, all while occasionally feeling the quiet frustration of someone who hasn't taken a day off since childhood. You sense the eyes of everyone around you. They are watching, judging, and expecting greatness, or at least competence. In Rome, those two expectations are nearly indistinguishable. Yet, amidst the overwhelming nature of adulthood, Roman teenagers surprisingly adapt. They rise to meet the challenge. Sure, they may complain softly. They might feel a wave of panic inside. And yes, there are times when they wish for a moment of respite from the demands of life. But Rome shapes you. Its noise fortifies you. Its expectations refine you. Its chaos readies you for a life lived with pride in one of the world's greatest cities. You are no longer just a teenager. You are a Roman, stepping into adulthood within the empire. Whether you feel ready or not, Rome continues to move forward, and you move with it. In the 12th century, Europe stumbled upon one of its most curious cultural inventions of the medieval era, courtly love. This was a system where falling passionately and hopelessly in love with someone unattainable was not seen as a moral failing. Instead, it became a badge of honor. Rather than adhering to the idea of avoiding adultery, medieval aristocrats created a loophole. They could adore someone intensely while never actually touching them. Imagine a world where romance transforms into a philosophical pursuit, complete with its own set of rules, rituals, and an astonishing number of poems, penned by men who may not have bathed in ages. At the core of courtly love lies the concept of impossibility. The ideal woman is often married, typically to a powerful man, and usually much older. This man often views poetry with suspicion, considering it dangerously French. Yet this challenge isn't a flaw. It becomes the very driving force of the narrative. A love that is already yours lacks nobility. It's the unattainable love that captures perfection. Medieval poets argue that the purest form of love is one that remains unfulfilled. This kind of love tortures you in the gentlest way, compelling you to write verses about a woman who might not even know you exist. This romantic pursuit demands performance. The knight isn't meant to seduce the lady directly. That would be too crude. Instead, the lover is tasked with worshiping her as if she were an earthly angel, the moral compass guiding his soul. He might carry her token into battle, a ribbon, a glove, or perhaps a piece of fabric he took without her knowledge. He would proclaim his loyalty to her through song during tournaments, even in the presence of her husband, who often happens to be the very sponsor of the event. As you reflect on this rich tapestry of love, consider how these ideals resonate today. How do they shape our understanding of love and longing? Imagine a lady in a world where her role is both significant and complex. She is expected to inspire virtue, to guide a knight's behavior with a touch of polite cruelty, and to reject him gracefully enough to make him yearn for her even more. Her task is to remain unattainable while feigning appreciation for his efforts. In a time when noble women had limited power, this peculiar system of romance granted them a unique influence. They could make men compete, endure hardship, strive for improvement, or even descend into a mild poetic madness. From the outset, courtly love was never truly about kisses or secret encounters behind castle walls. It was rooted in a deep longing, a longing that was almost weaponized, a socially sanctioned heartbreak, a nobleman's excuse to admire another's wife while cloaking it in philosophical musings. To grasp the essence of courtly love, one must understand the role of the medieval noble woman, or more accurately, the myth surrounding her. In theory, she was the moral compass of the aristocratic realm, pure and elegant, thought to possess wisdom surpassing even that of Aristotle. It was believed she had the emotional intelligence capable of transforming a brutish knight into a gentleman with just a glance. Yet, the reality often painted a different picture. These women were typically practical and politically astute, managing estates, forging marriage alliances, overseeing household finances, navigating pregnancies, and even dealing with the occasional plague outbreak. In this intricate dance of courtly love, they wielded a quiet power that shaped the very fabric of their society. Medieval poets often did not write about real women. Instead, they created the figure of the lady, a fictional being who existed primarily in their imaginations. Occasionally, she might appear in their belongings, like an embroidered handkerchief tucked away in a saddlebag. This idealization was striking. Poets spoke of their beloved lady as someone whose beauty could soften God's anger, whose smile could tame fierce lions, and whose voice held the power to heal wounds. Meanwhile, actual noble women were preoccupied with more practical concerns, such as protecting the grain harvest from bandits. In this romanticized vision, the lady transformed into a divine force, a muse, a judge, a source of spiritual enlightenment. She was not meant to be a flesh and blood human, but rather a powerful symbol. This idealization also served a convenient purpose. Knights claimed that their fervor in battle stemmed not from a desire for glory or riches, but from their devotion to this lady. Their courage, courtesy, and even personal grooming were supposedly in service to a woman they were not permitted to touch. If a knight acted poorly, poets would argue it was due to the absence of a guiding lady. Conversely, if he behaved admirably, it was because of her inspiration. Interestingly, medieval women seemed to be held accountable for everything except the weather. Life on a pedestal comes with its own set of challenges. Imagine a noble woman caught in the delicate balance of a knight's affections, a knight who is not her husband. She walks a tightrope. If she encourages him too much, she risks being labeled an adulteress. Yet if she rebuffs him too harshly, she breaches the rules of courtesy. She must navigate this intricate dance, gently declining his advances, while still allowing him to indulge in the emotional drama that inspires his poetry. It's like being pursued by a relentless admirer who insists on showing up in chainmail, reciting elaborate metaphors about your eyebrows. Despite the ridiculousness of the situation, this idealization grants noble women a unique kind of social influence. In a world where women rarely held direct power, being placed on a pedestal, even if it's merely symbolic, could shift the dynamics in their favor, just a little. While the noble woman enjoys this elevated status, the knight often finds himself in a far less dignified position, usually on his knees, pledging eternal loyalty to someone who could end the entire affair with just a single raised eyebrow. In the realm of courtly love, the knight's devotion transcends mere admiration. It transforms into a full-time emotional commitment, complete with rituals, vows, and a level of dramatic suffering that today's audiences might recognize as a form of unpaid theater. This intricate web of emotions and expectations creates a fascinating landscape in which both lovers navigate their roles, each bound by the norms of their society. The night unfolds with a deliberate choice. A lady is selected, one who is married, socially elevated, and as unattainable as possible. This isn't a flaw, it's part of the allure. If love comes too easily, it loses its nobility. A married woman keeps the night's yearning at a distance, creating a longing that is both painful and, above all, the perfect inspiration for poetry. The knight is not meant to win her love, he is meant to yearn for her in a dignified, courteous agony. In this complex dance, he pledges his unwavering loyalty to her. This devotion is a curious mix of religious fervor and personal drama, convenient for poets, yet awkward for the husbands involved. He vows to defend her honor, heed her commands, and strive for moral improvement. If the situation demands, he even promises to die heroically in her name, though ideally he would avoid that fate. The mere threat of such sacrifice adds a layer of poetic depth to his devotion. This commitment spills into everyday life. A knight might carry her colors, a ribbon, a scarf, or a piece of fabric she never actually gifted him, yet which he cherishes as a sacred relic. In tournaments, he excels, declaring that his victories belong to her entirely. If he falters, he takes the blame, lamenting his unworthiness. It's remarkable how many medieval emotional crises stem from knights apologizing to their ladies after being unceremoniously unseated from their horses at high speed. As you reflect on this romantic ideal, consider the profound emotions that shape these stories. Would you embrace such a longing, or do you see it as merely a tale of unrequited love? The blend of honor and heartache creates a captivating narrative that continues to resonate today. Longing becomes a way of life. Picture a knight in the tradition of courtly love, perpetually teetering on the edge of emotional turmoil. He sighs dramatically, crafts heartfelt verses, and gazes thoughtfully at the horizon, as if awaiting divine permission to speak to the woman who inspires his anguish. Is it love? Is it a self-imposed emotional whirlwind? Perhaps it resembles a medieval fan culture, where the lady remains blissfully unaware of her devoted admirer. It might be a blend of all these elements, but the suffering is vital. Pain signifies depth, while restraint embodies virtue. The distance between the knight and his lady, impossible, forbidden, yet utterly irresistible, fuels this entire system. Courtly love isn't spontaneous, it adheres to a strict set of rules. An unwritten constitution governs how a knight can express his adoration without sparking a scandal that could ignite a feud. Medieval poets and thinkers approached these rules with a seriousness akin to that of state treaties or papal edicts. Imagine if modern dating had even a fraction of the structure that courtly love demanded. Many would likely need a lawyer just to send a simple text. The most renowned rulebook emerged from Andreas Capellanus, a 12th century cleric tasked with documenting the romantic fantasies of the aristocracy. In his treatise, De More, the author outlines a series of principles that dictate how noble love should unfold. These are not mere suggestions, they are strict, drama-inducing commandments. For instance, love is deemed non-existent between a husband and wife. In the medieval mindset, marriage is considered too mundane to qualify as love. If you find yourself loving your spouse, you are perceived as doing it incorrectly. The rules also stress the importance of secrecy. This is somewhat ironic, given that many troubadours across Europe built their careers on gossiping through music about romantic entanglements. Yet maintaining secrecy was thought to preserve dignity, or at least the facade of it. A knight's devotion needed to be private enough to avoid scandal, while still being public enough to enhance his social standing. It's a delicate balance, especially for someone encumbered by heavy armor. Another significant rule states that love flourishes in adversity. If everything seems to be going smoothly, something is clearly amiss. Challenges, whether they be distance, disapproval, Marriage, or even the threat of angry husbands wielding crossbows, are not just obstacles, they are essential components of true love. Without some measure of suffering, a knight is merely enjoying a pleasant experience, which lacks the poetic essence of love. Meanwhile, a lady is expected to exhibit mercy without prompting and to show firmness without cruelty. If she comes off as too cold, she risks violating the unwritten codes of courtesy. Imagine a world steeped in the complexities of love, where warmth can sometimes lead to misunderstandings. In this delicate dance, responses must be measured, perhaps in millimeters. There's just enough kindness to keep the evening devoted, enough restraint to ward off rumors, and enough patience to endure a lifetime of poems comparing her eyebrows to crescent moons. In this realm of courtly love, the stakes are high. A knight's longing is not merely a fleeting emotion, it serves a greater purpose. It calls for moral improvement. Through his yearning, he is tasked with elevating his soul, becoming more virtuous, courageous, and refined. If he emerges from this emotional whirlwind unchanged, he has missed the mark. This is romance, yes, but it is intricately regulated, a passion so carefully choreographed that even infidelity comes with its own set of aesthetic guidelines. For better or worse, this framework has shaped medieval Europe's understanding of love for centuries. If courtly love is a cultural fire, then the troubadours are the torchbearers, spreading flames of passion across the continent. These poet-musicians of southern France took the raw, chaotic emotions of noble longing and transformed them into the medieval equivalent of chart-topping hits. Picture a world where every popular song revolves around someone's unrequited crush on a married noblewoman. This was 12th century Provence, where a troubadour wore many hats, part poet, part performer, and part gossip columnist. As you reflect on this intricate tapestry of love, consider how these themes resonate even today. Wouldn't it be fascinating to explore how the echoes of courtly love still shape our perceptions of romance? Imagine a time when poets crafted intricate verses about knights who adored distant ladies, and those ladies inspired their devotion by remaining just out of reach. These lyrics transformed yearning into an exquisite art form. A single sigh from a lady could ignite an entire ballad, while a mere glance could inspire a whole collection of songs. If she spoke even a few words to the knight, it was akin to winning an emotional Grammy. The troubadours played a crucial role in spreading the concept of courtly love throughout Europe. Their melodies traveled from castle to castle, sometimes carried by the troubadours themselves, other times by knights who memorized their words, or even by princesses who brought the tradition north through their marriages to foreign kings. Eleanor of Aquitaine, who became queen of both France and England, was the Beyoncé of this movement. Her influence led the aristocracy to embrace the notion that the highest form of love was often a structured emotional challenge. Yet, the troubadours did more than simply entertain. They shaped reputations in profound ways. A knight could hire a poet to sing his praises and celebrate his devotion, creating a sort of medieval public relations strategy. A lady could enhance her social standing through songs that highlighted her beauty and virtue. However, it's important to remember that a poorly crafted poem could stir up trouble, revealing the delicate balance of admiration and reputation in this intricate social dance. Imagine a troubadour whose hints at a noblewoman's secret admirer could ignite whispers, feuds, or even wars. There's something about romantic tension that carries the weight of potential conflict. The poetry of these performers often stretched reality to mythical heights. Knights transformed into flawless heroes, ladies became goddesses, and husbands morphed into obstacles with rather unfortunate traits. Troubadours wielded metaphor like a chef, seasons a dish, generously and with flair, sometimes to the point of absurdity. A lady's hands were whiter than milk, her eyes shone as brightly as swords, and her heart stood fortified like a mighty castle. Perhaps in reality, women simply wished to manage their households in peace, yet the influence of these troubadours was undeniable. They transformed longing into captivating performances, secrecy into public spectacle, and personal heartbreak into a shared cultural fascination. Without troubadours, courtly love might have remained a mere pastime. Instead, it blossomed into Europe's most fashionable obsession. To grasp why courtly love gained such fervent popularity, consider the nature of medieval marriage, or rather, the stark absence of romance within it. For the nobility, marriage was not about emotion. It revolved around property, alliances, land rights, heirs, and ensuring that your neighbor couldn't invade come spring. Reflect on this contrast. What does it reveal about love, longing, and the human experience? Feelings often seem irrelevant, and at times they can even feel like a burden. From the moment a noble child enters the world, their marriage is typically predetermined. Families negotiate these unions much like chess players, strategizing their next moves. A daughter might find herself engaged at just 3 years old, married by 12, and managing a household before she can even enjoy a glass of medieval wine without supervision. Her personal desires are rarely considered in these arrangements. The character of her future husband is also overlooked. If he happens to be much older, emotionally distant, or even perpetually grumpy, that becomes her new reality. For men, the situation is not much more romantic. A knight might dream of adventure and glory, or perhaps a noble woman who genuinely smiles at him. Yet, he is often directed to marry the woman who offers the best land deal. While marital affection is possible, it is rarely anticipated. It's akin to stumbling upon a hidden grain store or surviving an arrow wound. Pure luck. Amidst this emotional aridity emerges the concept of courtly love. This system allows nobles to experience feelings, provided those feelings are not directed toward their spouses. While adultery remains officially condemned, emotional infidelity becomes almost a cherished pastime. As you reflect on this, consider how different these customs are from the relationships we value today. What does love look like to you in the context of your own life? Imagine a woman admiring a knight who is not her husband. Picture a knight who replaces marital duty with a deep devotional longing. In this world, such feelings are seen as culturally enriching rather than complicated. Courtly love serves as a pressure valve for the aristocracy, breathing life into their emotional existence. It ignites drama, excitement, and a sense of purpose. A noble woman, trapped in a politically necessary marriage, can relish admiration without breaking societal norms. Meanwhile, a knight, bound by a political union, channels his yearning towards someone idealized rather than someone selected based on dowry. The contradiction is striking. Medieval society publicly denounces adultery while secretly romanticizing a system built on the desire for those deemed forbidden. The reality is straightforward. Courtly love thrives because medieval marriages often lack romance. When a spouse is chosen like a feudal tax, yearning naturally seeks a different outlet, preferably towards someone who inspires better poetry. In a system entirely focused on desiring the unattainable, courtly love dances precariously close to actual adultery. So close, in fact, that countless clergy, nobles, and frustrated husbands have spent centuries debating where the line truly lies. Isn't it fascinating how love can weave through the complexities of duty and desire? The official rule is clear. Courtly love must remain pure, untouched, and wonderfully impossible. However, the reality is quite different. Many couples in the medieval era treated these rules more like creative guidelines than strict laws. The entire system relied on a fascinating skill: pretending. A knight could pledge lifelong devotion to another man's wife, as long as he expressed it through polished poetry rather than in dark corridors. Similarly, a lady could graciously accept his admiration, as long as she conveyed a tone of "I adore your devotion," rather than suggesting "meet me behind the dovecote." In theory, this was emotional theater without physical consequences. Yet, human nature hasn't changed, even in the 12th century. A knight writing countless poems about a woman's hair often yearned for more than just metaphor. Troubadours played their part, blurring lines and hinting at secret rendezvous, occasionally crossing into the territory of "we all know what's happening here." Courts buzzed with whispers about which lady's knight had grown too bold, which husband feigned ignorance, and which poet needed to be exiled for their insinuations. The fact that so many romances concluded with a promise of love that would never be consummated speaks volumes about how frequently the opposite occurred. The Church, as expected, disapproved of it all. Clerics warned that even harboring love in one's heart posed a spiritual threat, akin to adultery committed in thought alone. They delivered sermons denouncing lust disguised as nobility, accusing troubadours of spreading moral decay through their enchanting melodies. Meanwhile, nobles sat in these sermons, proudly displaying their lady's ribbon on their sleeves. Husbands faced the greatest challenge. They were expected to maintain a dignified demeanor in public, as courtly love had become all the rage. Yet privately, many seethed with anger. Medieval law codes are filled with veiled references to jealous husbands, sudden gifts of jewelry, and instances where a knight may have accidentally fallen from a window. At the same time, a lady admired by a renowned knight saw her household's prestige soar. Thus, many husbands begrudgingly accepted this delicate situation, hoping their wives' courtly admirers remained in the realm of poetic longing rather than crossing into the perilous territory of scandal. Courtly love teetered on a precarious edge. It had to appear adulterous while avoiding actual infidelity. It needed to inspire desire without ever fulfilling it. It had to burn brightly without igniting any real flames. Remarkably, against all odds, it often succeeded. For something that was said to be pure and uplifting, courtly love possessed an uncanny ability to generate absolute chaos. Knights often found themselves enamored with the wrong women, while kings grew increasingly suspicious. Troubadours spread tales, and sometimes this tangled web of romance spiraled into political crises, open warfare, or even papal upheaval. This was more than mere poetry. It was geopolitics wrapped in eloquent metaphors. Take Eleanor of Aquitaine, for instance, a figure emblematic of complex romance. 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 A figure emblematic of her court in Poitiers, transformed into a vibrant hub of romantic thought, where troubadours crafted new interpretations of love, ladies engaged in debates about romantic ethics, and noble men practiced chivalry with such fervor that it often made husbands uneasy. Some historians suggest that these playful flirtations and lyrical exchanges directly fueled the tensions that ultimately unraveled her marriage to Louis VII. When a queen wields emotional devotion as a tool of political influence, the whole of Europe takes notice. Then there's Mary de Champagne, who elevated courtly love to the level of a moral courtroom. She presided over love trials where nobles deliberated on theoretical romantic dilemmas, such as whether a lady could love two men simultaneously. While these discussions were indeed intellectual exercises, they significantly shaped societal views on loyalty, adultery, and power. Ideas, especially when whispered into the ears of royalty, carry weighty consequences. Amid all this, actual affairs disguised as courtly devotion sparked battles, proving that love could ignite conflict as easily as it inspired poetry. Throughout history, countless knights have lost their lives in the name of a lady's honor, or at least in defense of the rumor that they were doing so. A nobleman, publicly proclaiming his devotion to the wrong woman, could ignite family feuds, spark castle sieges, and lead to the collapse of long-standing alliances, all because someone penned one too many poems. The church, already wary of this emotional chaos, intensified its condemnation when these scandals struck political nerves. Some clerics even likened courtly love to heresy, arguing that it was a system where humans worshipped other humans with a fervor that should be reserved for God alone. The notion that a knight could kneel before his lady as he would before the Virgin Mary was deemed spiritually perilous and politically destabilizing. One bishop went so far as to declare that courtly love corrupts kingdoms more swiftly than war itself. Those are strong words from someone who likely never had a troubadour compose a ballad in his honor. Yet, despite the conflicts, the excommunications, and the overly poetic funerals, courtly love persisted. It nourished egos, shaped diplomatic relations, and provided a captivating distraction for nobles between crusades. In a world governed by hierarchy and duty, this forbidden affection served as an unpredictable spark, capable of igniting profound changes, sometimes beautifully, sometimes catastrophically. As the Middle Ages draw to a close, marked by plagues, wars, and questionable fashion choices, courtly love emerges as a significant cultural force in Europe. What began as a poetic pastime among the southern French aristocracy blossoms into a widespread phenomenon that transforms romance, literature, and the very essence of desire. Despite its contradictions and complexities, courtly love leaves a lasting legacy that resonates even today. This movement introduces the concept of romantic idealization, suggesting that love is not just an emotion, but a noble, transformative experience that uplifts the spirit. Prior to this, European literature primarily focused on battles, saints, and biblical tales. With courtly love, poetry evolves to explore interior emotions. It shifts from tales of conquest and divine praise to the deep, often painful feelings of longing, the excitement of admiration, and the whirlwind of emotions that arise when someone captivating walks by, turning your world upside down. Moreover, courtly love fundamentally alters literature. From the songs of troubadours to the romances of Cretans, the emotional tension between forbidden lovers becomes a beloved narrative thread throughout Europe. This exploration of love's complexities invites you to reflect on the nature of desire itself and how it shapes our stories. So, as you ponder these themes, consider how they might resonate in your own life. Would you like to explore this further, or perhaps take a moment to reflect? Imagine Lancelot and Guinevere, the quintessential duo of courtly love gone awry. Their romance transcended mere storytelling. It became a seismic shift in the Arthurian realm. Writers across Europe eagerly embraced this narrative formula. A noble hero, an unattainable lady, dangerous desires, and tragic outcomes. This was the medieval blueprint for romance, shaping even contemporary love stories. The themes of unrequited love, the beloved idolized from afar, and the notion that love often comes with suffering, all trace back to the same courts where troubadours strummed lutes. Noblewomen, while feigning flattery, secretly managed their estates. Each time a character dramatically sighs in a novel or film, elevating romance to a matter of fate, you can hear the faint echoes of a 12th century poet who linked heart to martyr in Aucassin. Yet, courtly love was more than just an artistic expression. It unveiled deep truths about medieval society. It reflected a profound yearning for emotion in an era dominated by duty. Nobles existed within a strict hierarchy, bound by arranged marriages and political obligations. Courtly love offered them an escape, a socially sanctioned rebellion that allowed them to feel passionately while maintaining the facade of adherence to societal norms. As you contemplate this rich tapestry of love and longing, consider how these themes resonate in our lives today. Would you like to explore more about the influence of courtly love on modern relationships? In the end, this peculiar yet beautiful system became Europe's cherished madness. It infused life with drama, poetry, and a deeper sense of humanity. Even now, centuries later, the notion that love should be yearned for rather than possessed still resonates with us, a medieval whisper guiding modern hearts. Victorian medicine had a remarkable ability to transform nearly any action a woman took into a medical crisis. If she didn't eat enough, it was deemed an illness. If she ate too much, that too was an illness. Feeling fatigued? Illness. Feeling energetic? Definitely an illness. And if a woman dared to voice an opinion, or worse, show boredom, anger, or desire, doctors would eagerly reach for their notebooks, as if documenting an exotic creature discovered in the wild. While this era did yield genuine scientific breakthroughs, it also produced an astonishing list of fabricated female disorders. These would be laughable if they weren't wielded as tools for control. One of the most notorious was hysteria. According to Victorian physicians, just about anything could trigger it. Excessive thinking, insufficient thinking, riding a horse, reading novels, not wanting children, wanting too many children, or simply existing for too long in a stuffy room. Take a moment to reflect on how these ideas shaped perceptions of women. Isn't it fascinating to consider how far we've come, yet how some whispers of the past still linger today? Hysteria emerges as the medical Swiss Army knife of its time. It seems to explain everything, yet ultimately explains nothing. Crucially, this diagnosis is almost exclusively applied to women, while men appear immune. How convenient is that? Hysteria transcends mere diagnosis. It serves as a framework that medicalizes a woman's personality, emotions, frustrations, and desires. If a woman feels depressed due to her lack of legal rights, she is labeled hysterical. If she expresses anger because her husband treats her as mere decoration, she is deemed hysterical. Even a woman's sexual desire, a natural human experience, is pathologized. In response, doctors reach for tools they trust: sedation, isolation, electrotherapy, cold baths, rest cures, and enough medication to tranquilize a horse. The Victorians cherished the illusion of scientific legitimacy. Instead of recognizing that a woman's distress might stem from social issues, like being trapped in an unloving marriage or being denied an education, they neatly package her suffering under a medical label. The more clinical the label sounds, the easier it becomes to overlook the real issues at hand. Hysteria allows men to feel logical, while women are silenced, and society finds justification for its actions. Even more troubling, These diagnoses often obscure the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface. Reflect on this. How many voices have been muffled in the name of diagnosis? It's time to listen more closely. Desire was often seen as a flaw in the Victorian era. When a woman sought intimacy or pleasure, it was treated like a fever that needed to be cooled, a flame that required extinguishing. In a society fixated on moral purity and female submission, diagnosing women became an effective means of control. Victorian medicine didn't merely address imagined ailments, it actively created them, and countless women bore the consequences of symptoms they never truly experienced. To grasp the essence of Victorian medicine, one must recognize that it transcended mere health care. It was deeply intertwined with morality. Doctors, adorned with stethoscopes, were not just identifying illnesses, they were upholding a worldview. They believed that society was woven together by fragile threads of purity, obedience, and strict gender roles. If even one woman challenged these threads, the very fabric of civilization could unravel like a poorly made corset. Thus, medicine transformed into a tool of power. It wasn't necessarily cruel, but it was delivered with an overconfidence that proved catastrophic. Victorian doctors considered themselves the protectors of social order. They perceived women as inherently delicate, emotional, and ill-equipped to handle stress. This perspective conveniently allowed them to place blame on women for various issues while simultaneously sidelining them from significant roles in society. As you reflect on this, consider how these beliefs shaped not only the medical landscape, but also the lives of countless women. Imagine a time when a woman's quest for education, independence, or control over her own body was met with skepticism. Doctors labeled these aspirations as morally perilous, suggesting they posed a medical threat. In response, they crafted diagnoses that reflected these fears. The idea of degeneracy gained traction, not as a legitimate medical condition, but as a societal anxiety, a belief that society was in decline. Women's desires were seen as the first signs of this deterioration. Consider the implications. A woman who read too much risked becoming morally overstimulated. If she enjoyed physical activity, she might be viewed as adopting masculine traits. Speaking freely, that could lead to mental instability. It seemed that every action was a slippery slope toward societal decay. Doctors, with alarming certainty, linked morality to biology, asserting that a woman's entire character was dictated by her reproductive system. Sadness? Blame the uterus. Anxiety? A misalignment of the uterus. Anger? The uterus was on a wandering mission, seeking trouble. This outdated theory, one even the ancient Greeks would have dismissed, somehow thrived in Victorian Britain. During this period, there was profound anxiety surrounding female sexuality. Desire was depicted not as a natural impulse, but as a dangerous force, one that could corrupt society, disrupt marriages, and undermine men. As you reflect on this, what thoughts arise about the way society has shaped our understanding of women's desires? Throughout history, doctors have issued serious warnings, claiming that too much pleasure could lead to madness, infertility, or moral decay. They recommended treatments like sedation, cold baths, and strict supervision to protect both women and society from their impulses. However, these diagnoses reflected the fears of the Victorian era far more than they did the realities of women's bodies. Medicine became the lens through which society expressed its anxieties about evolving gender roles, sexuality, and desire itself. These fears shaped treatments that became increasingly invasive and damaging. If there was a crown jewel in Victorian medicine, it was undoubtedly the diagnosis of hysteria. This condition was diagnosed more frequently than any other, often with little to no evidence. It was vague, flexible, and pervasive, encompassing a wide array of symptoms that were not recognized as legitimate diseases. Hysteria was the ideal medical construct, dramatic enough to justify various treatments, broad enough to apply to nearly anyone, and moral enough to uphold Victorian ideals about women's behavior. Doctors spoke of hysteria with the enthusiasm of collectors cataloging rare butterflies. The symptoms included fainting, anxiety, irritability, insomnia, weeping, daydreaming, a rebellious spirit, a desire for independence, and perhaps most suspiciously, an excessive sense of sexual feeling. As you reflect on this, consider how these historical narratives shape our understanding of women's health today. Wouldn't it be fascinating to explore how far we've come and what still needs to change? Hysteria embodies the deep-seated fears that Victorian society held about women, all wrapped into one convenient label. This diagnosis could be applied to nearly any woman, married, unmarried, or those who worked too much or too little. Almost every type of woman was seen as vulnerable. In stark contrast, men experiencing similar symptoms were merely labeled as tired. The power of hysteria lay in its misleading scientific veneer. Victorian physicians, enamored with the prestige of medical language, drew heavily from outdated theories. One such notion was the ancient Greek belief that a woman's uterus could wander through her body, causing chaos, a whimsical idea that even classical writers found amusing. Yet it resurfaced in Victorian medical texts with a serious tone. Doctors insisted that the female reproductive system was unstable and unpredictable, capable of unleashing emotional turmoil if not kept in check. However, the reality was much simpler. Hysteria served as a socially acceptable means to dismiss women's suffering, mute their frustrations, and pathologize their desires. If a woman felt overwhelmed by the stifling demands of domestic life, she was labeled hysterical. Reflect on this. Isn't it intriguing how societal perceptions can shape and define experiences? Imagine a time when a woman's anger over her limited rights was dismissed as hysteria, when feelings of desire or dissatisfaction were met with the same label. Hysteria became both a diagnosis and a warning. Instead of healing, treatments were aimed at discipline. Sedatives quieted thoughts, cold baths restrained impulses, and rest cures immobilized the body. Isolation sought to calm agitation, all in an effort to mold women into the ideal Victorian figure, quiet, compliant, and unquestioning. Hysteria was not a genuine medical condition. It served as a socially accepted way to silence women, all while masquerading as care for their well-being. Often, the treatments inflicted more harm than the so-called ailment itself. Among the various treatments imposed by Victorian medicine, none was as notorious or insidiously damaging as the rest cure, developed by Dr. Silas Weir Mitchell. This so-called revolutionary approach was meant for hysteria, nervousness, female weakness, and any symptoms that hinted at unhappiness. Yet in reality, it functioned as psychological imprisonment cloaked in medical legitimacy. The primary prescription of the rest cure was unequivocal: total inactivity. Patients found themselves confined to bed for weeks, sometimes even months. Take a moment to reflect on the impact of such treatments. What does it mean to be silenced in the name of care? Imagine a world where reading, writing, and even deep thought are strictly forbidden. Fresh air, visitors, and anything that might spark joy or mental activity are simply not allowed. Women are expected to lie still, allowing their bodies to heal, as if their souls are fragile teacups that just need a moment of quiet. Doctors believe that rest is the key to restoring feminine delicacy. Yet, in truth, this enforced stillness undermines mental stability. Consider the many women who enter treatment already burdened by depression, anxiety, or the overwhelming pressures of domestic life. The so-called rest cure only intensifies their struggles, stripping them of their autonomy. Some describe their experience as that of prisoners confined to their own bedrooms. Over time, they feel their identities fading away, bit by bit. Even their meals are controlled. Patients are compelled to consume rich, heavy diets, all in the name of restoring vitality. Often, nurses feed them as if they were children. Daily routines include massage and electrotherapy, not for comfort, but based on the belief that inactivity leads to muscle decay. This creates a peculiar cycle: eat, be massaged, lie still, and obey. Ironically, the more a woman resists, the more her defiance is interpreted as a sign that she requires treatment. Reflect on this. What does it mean to lose one's autonomy in pursuit of healing? How does it feel to be trapped in a cycle that seems to stifle rather than nurture? As you consider these questions, remember that every story, every experience holds a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered. Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper stands as a haunting testament to the psychological devastation wrought by the rest cure. Gilman herself experienced this treatment, where she was forbidden to write, leading her to the brink of madness. Her narrative illustrates a woman's gradual descent into insanity as isolation morphs into chaos. This fictional tale is deeply rooted in a horrifying reality. The true cruelty of this so-called rescue lies in its treatment of a woman's suffering. Pain was seen as proof of her inadequacy. Her thoughts were deemed symptoms, her creativity a threat, and her desires a disorder. This was Victorian morality masquerading as medicine, punishing women for stepping beyond the confines of their prescribed roles. It did not alleviate their anguish, it merely silenced it. In that oppressive silence, countless women crumbled. If Victorian medicine had a final chilling threat, it was the looming specter of the asylum. These institutions were marketed as sanctuaries of treatment and scientific care. In truth, they served as moral holding cells, where women deemed inconvenient could be hidden away under the guise of medical necessity. A husband, father, or even a brother could secure a woman's commitment with alarming ease. Once confined, she might find herself trapped, with little hope of ever reclaiming her freedom. Victorian asylums operated under a chilling principle. A woman who failed to embody proper femininity was deemed mentally unwell. This ideal of femininity demanded obedience, calmness, modesty, and an incredible tolerance for boredom. If a woman dared to challenge her husband, seek education, or assert her sexual autonomy, she could be labeled with alarming diagnoses such as moral insanity, erotomania, melancholic excitability, or the ever-popular hysteria. Once a diagnosis was assigned, no further evidence was required. Medical authority transformed into a cage. Conditions within these asylums often mirrored their oppressive ideals. Overcrowded wards, poor sanitation, and high mortality rates were tragically common. Treatments were harsh and included cold water immersion, forced feeding, isolation, electrotherapy, and sedatives that dulled more than mere distress. Even normal behaviors like crying, pacing, or refusing food were recorded as proof of illness rather than natural reactions to confinement. Every action became self-confirming evidence that the patient belonged in that bleak environment. Yet, perhaps the most disturbing aspect was not the brutality itself, but the ordinariness of the justifications. A woman grieving too intensely after a loss could find herself committed, trapped within a system that saw her pain as a sign of madness. Imagine a time when a woman's love for poetry could lead to her being confined. If she dared to express romantic feelings or refused to engage in marital duties, she might find herself committed. The asylum system of that era blurred the lines between medicine and morality, causing the two to merge into one. While some women did struggle with genuine mental health issues, the treatments offered during the Victorian age were often ineffective. Many others were perfectly healthy, yet trapped by family disputes, property conflicts, or simply the misalignment of their emotions with societal expectations. The asylum served as a powerful tool for silencing women. Ironically, male patients exhibiting similar behaviors faced different treatment. Men who drank, gambled, or expressed desire were often seen as passionate or spirited, while women showing the same impulses were labeled as degenerating. In this world, science claimed to be impartial, but morality held all the power. Behind those locked doors, countless women vanished into diagnoses that reflected societal fears rather than their true mental states. If the Victorian asylum was a cage, then sedation was the key. This chemical means of quieting women was used to suppress emotions and desires that made society uncomfortable. Doctors of the 19th century showed an alarming eagerness for drugs that dulled consciousness, further reinforcing the silence around women's lives. Imagine a time when substances like opium, laudanum, chloral hydrate, bromadides, and ether were dispensed with a casual ease, much like watering a garden. A note might read, "She is troublesome. Increase her laudanum." The approach to distress wasn't about understanding. It was about enveloping individuals in a chemical haze. Sedation was often the first response to emotions deemed excessive. Hysteria, anxiety, grief, or even the simple act of not smiling on cue. In Victorian society, emotions were treated like raging fires. If a woman's spirit burned too brightly, the solution was to extinguish it. As a result, women frequently found themselves in a half-conscious state, unable to object or engage fully in their own lives. Doctors of the time claimed this was a form of healing. They argued that sedation calmed the nerves, soothed the spirit, and restored the essence of feminine gentleness. Yet, in truth, it kept women compliant. Lord, a popular concoction of alcohol and opium, was openly sold, recommended by physicians, and consumed by mothers, daughters, and even infants. While it provided relief from pain, it also dulled feelings of restlessness, frustration, anger, and desire, all emotions that Victorian society deemed inappropriate for women. Many women unwittingly slipped into dependency, with no one recognizing it as addiction. Perhaps you can reflect on how far we've come, and yet how some echoes of that past still linger today. Dependency often mirrored the ideal Victorian woman, quiet, passive, and compliant. Chloral hydrate, commonly known as knockout drops, became a favored remedy. It was prescribed for various conditions, including insomnia, hysteria, night excitability, and even moral agitation, which essentially meant that a woman had opinions. This drug induced deep sleep, sometimes to a dangerous extent, and long-term use led to confusion, memory loss, and emotional numbness. Doctors were aware of these side effects, yet they continued to prescribe it. A silent patient was easier to manage than one who suffered. What made these treatments particularly cruel was their presentation as acts of compassion. A physician might reassure a woman, saying, "You must rest, for your nerves are overwrought," before administering a dose potent enough to strip away her independence. Family members believed they were acting in her best interest, while communities thought they were witnessing medical progress. Slowly, women faded into sedation, their personalities dissolving under the weight of medications they were told would restore their health. This Victorian sedation was not a treatment for illness. It was a means of erasure, not of symptoms, but of women's voices. Beneath this quiet facade lies a profound truth waiting to be acknowledged. Silence, rather than health, emerges as the true prescription. The moral agenda of Victorian medicine becomes evident in its treatment of female desire. To 19th century physicians, a woman's sexuality was not seen as a part of her humanity. Instead, it was perceived as a threat, a destabilizing force that could lead to moral collapse, social decay, and what they ominously termed degenerative tendencies. Rather than embracing female desire as a natural aspect of life, Victorian medicine pathologized it. A woman yearning for intimacy was labeled not as passionate, but as overstimulated. If she felt neglected in her marriage, she was considered disordered. Sexual desire transformed into a medical emergency. Doctors described female pleasure using alarmingly dramatic language. Medical journals cautioned that excessive passion could lead to insanity, infertility, spinal collapse, or even death. Some argued that a woman's body could not endure pleasure without incurring lasting harm, a theory rooted more in societal panic than in anatomical fact. The fear surrounding female desire was so profound that it was treated with the same seriousness as a contagious disease. The diagnosis frequently applied was nymphomania, a term encompassing everything from genuine libido to perfectly normal curiosity. As you reflect on this, consider how these historical perspectives shape our understanding of desire today. What might it mean to reclaim a narrative of intimacy that celebrates rather than pathologizes? Imagine a time when expressing romantic interest was seen as a cause for concern. In the Victorian era, symptoms such as an intense fascination with romance, frequent daydreaming, and difficulty in maintaining modesty were viewed with alarm. A woman's desire for intimacy with her husband was not celebrated. Instead, it raised red flags. To the doctors of the time, desire was not merely an emotion, it signified a woman's moral decline. The treatments for such conditions were shocking. Some women faced forced isolation, a drastic measure intended to suppress their passions. Others were subjected to ice baths, sedatives, or even physical restraints. In the most harrowing instances, doctors resorted to clitoridectomy, a surgical procedure that removed the clitoris in the misguided belief that it would eliminate desire forever. These acts, framed as medical necessities, were nothing less than violence cloaked in the guise of science. Yet, in a curious contradiction, the same medical community that feared female desire also developed the pelvic massage. This treatment aimed to alleviate hysteria by inducing what we now recognize as orgasm. Physicians rationalized this practice as purely clinical, stripping it of sexual connotations, as Victorian morality permitted men to derive pleasure from such acts, provided they claimed ignorance of its true nature. Reflect on this complex relationship between desire and societal norms. It invites us to question how perceptions of femininity and sexuality evolve, even today. Victorian medicine reveals a profound cultural fear surrounding desire. There was a concern that if women gained control over their own bodies, they might seek autonomy in every aspect of life. This led to the troubling notion that sexuality was a form of pathology, transforming pleasure into a disease, while the female body became a battleground for morality and control. Amidst this obsession with imaginary ailments, Victorian medicine often failed to address real suffering experienced by women. Conditions like endometriosis, postpartum depression, anemia, chronic pain, infections, and autoimmune disorders were frequently dismissed as mere female nerves or moral weaknesses. The irony is striking.